the podcast where we talk about all the things that are hidden in the shadows. This is Isaac.
And this is Megan.
And on this long-awaited episode, like I say every single time,
Yeah.
we're talking, well, we don't have any haunted updates, do we?
Well, this is kind of a haunted update.
Technically, yeah. So, well, this is an episode that we've wanted to do but never had an opportunity to do because we never had the ability to get on said subject of this episode. This is all about Haunted Camp Lejeune.
Part 2.
Because we did part 1 way back when, almost 2 years now. When we were first starting out, before I had my abilities, before you were strong with yours, before we investigated, all that. So we were just going off stories that we read.
Yes.
And we didn't know it's that haunted. But after investigating on base, thanks to Michael and his family, sponsoring us on base,
Mm-hmm.
we had the opportunity to investigate some locations on base. So we were actually there, and we're going to tell you some of those places we investigated and what we found.
Yes, and just so people know, like, these are not. We didn't go in and because as of right now, I don't think they allow investigators to go on base, like, to buildings, like the old Naval Hospital, which is known as H1, or specific areas like the buildings, because base has a lot of historic buildings. Yeah, like a lot of the settlements and stuff that came, during the colonial times what was
what was that? What are you doing?
Sounded like someone came to the door. It was weird.
Normal day in our home.
No, today in particular, I don't know why. Today in particular has been, I don't know. But so there's a lot of historic buildings on base and a lot of the old stuff from the settlements and stuff like that. And I know there's been a lot of investigators trying their hardest to get in on base, but I don't think to those buildings, and I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
Not as you have some in with the military, but though we made friends with Marine and his family, we're not able to get into certain locations, especially one that I always get told to go to. Some old cabin. When the first settlers came to this area, there's a cabin built there, named after, the whole entire county is named after him. Some guy named Onslow, name Onslow, right? Yeah. And that cabin's still there. Supposedly some haunted activity going on there, but that part of the base, I don't know if you even get to.
Yeah, and I think obviously it's a base. It's an active base. Yeah. So, you're limited on what you can go. But, doing my own research, gathering what we have gathered from the couple times we went there, and I had gone on base one time prior to this when I was a kid. I had a friend whose family. Most families here in Jacksonville are military related in some way, shape, or form, because Camp Lejeune is one of the biggest bases, at least on the East Coast. So it's literally like its own city on there. Like, I'm still kind of PO'd that they have a Raising Cane's and we don't.
I don't know how to get away with that. Some military contract. Yeah. But no, Marines are trained there. They train in different facilities there. A lot of housing as well. So not only Marines staying on base, they're getting trained. They have the barracks. They have housing departments. Like I said, all their own city schools, everything. And for some reason, a base that's never seen war or battle is excessively haunted.
Like, ridiculously. Like, you feel it when you go through the gates. Like, I felt it when I was a kid. When I went on base, I think we went to, because they have their own theater there. We went to see, Prisoner of Azkaban. I was not.
Azkaban.
There you go.
You uncultured person.
But, we went to see that, and I remember I had to get out. Like, I had to tell my friend's mom, like, hey, I've got to go stay outside. But the thing is, the base was the base starting in 1941. I think, like, they fully got Marines in there by 1943. But that's the thing is, what was the base before that?
What was the land before that?
Yeah, that's what I mean. And so we did some digging history-wise. There's still a lot of loose ends because obviously it's base and they keep a lot of things hush-hush. A lot of things that we've gathered have been word of mouth. And it's to the point, too, where, like, when we were going out giving flyers for this live event that we were doing, and we specifically said we were, we're going to talk about haunted Camp Lejeune at the live event, people were like, oh, yeah, because that place is haunted. Like, people that are skeptics will say there's something funky.
Well, another thing, too, my job doing pest control takes me to people's homes all the time. And around here, there's a good chance that the guy you're servicing was or is still a Marine. And so if I see any marine memorabilia in their home, I ask them a couple of times already so far. I ask them, hey, you served on Camp Lejeune, right? I said, yeah. Do you experience anything paranormal? And they look at me like real fast, go, let me tell you something.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I'll tell you, the MetroNet, which is our internet provider, guy came here. And he saw me editing the podcast one day. I had it out, my laptop out on the dining table. And he goes, oh, I know what this is. He picked up my recorder. And then I explained, oh, yeah, like we, paranormal investigating stuff. And actually we just got on, like, with our friend for Camp Lejeune to kind of test some things out. And he was like, let me tell you something. And he says he doesn't know what he heard. That's always the beginning part. Is like, I don't know, man. I don't know, like don't
think I'm crazy or anything.
And the sad thing too, a little bit, is a lot of people, when you give them the opportunity to share their stories, because sometimes with the paranormal, it's, I don't know, like, when you give them the opening where, hey, it's a safe spot to talk about your experiences, shoot, they open up.
Yeah.
That's happened to us multiple times.
Like, I've been holding this story for years. I can't wait to tell somebody.
Yeah, and if you look on forums, and that's what all started, like, investigating. And we'll even kind of, like, we'll talk about base, but there's some places outside of base that border, like, the base area that's near us, that the park being one that we always talk about, has ties to the things on base. It's like the whole full land over here, because we live very close to base. So
very close.
Very close, yeah. But yeah, we're going to tell some stories from our personal experiences, and then too, I'll share some from people on base.
What do you want to do first?
So I guess we could talk about our experiences, because then we can trail into history and stuff like that.
So one of the first places we investigated when we got on base was a neighborhood, and there's a park, not a park, there's more of a trail that goes into a trail that goes up and kind of stops at a certain point behind a certain neighborhood in TC area. No, a little further.
I have no clue where the actual, because we always go when it's nighttime, and
I know. We take Wilson Gate. I know that.
Yeah.
And then we go straight. So it's... I got it.
Yeah. There's, again, it's as big as another city.
Yeah. But I don't think Michael wants me giving away exactly where.
Yeah.
But, no, when we first went out, let's start from the beginning. Michael was a fan of the show. He heard Haunted Camp Lejeune. So he messaged us, asked us, hey, if you guys are trying to get on base, do you want me to try to get you guys on? So like, yeah, we've been trying to get on for a while, right? No one really, we've never heard any investigators even around here ever have the opportunity to get on base. So we get on base, we speak to him, we talk a little bit, explain what we can do and how we investigate. The whole reason actually was a home investigation of his home, because he was dealing with stuff in his house. Took care of that. He's all good now. But he asked us, hey, you guys want to check out behind the house? There's a trail, supposedly a little kid died in the river. The kids in the neighborhood, they live in all these houses, play in that area, and they said they've always seen a little kid in this tunnel, big drainage tunnel across this little river area where a giant tree fell down. It's almost like a little man-made bridge the kids can cross over. I said, kid fits across it because I would probably slip and fall. But while we were there, experienced a lot of stuff, and we went back to that location twice. First time, experienced some stuff right there. I took some things back and forth, and the direction I felt something very strong actually led us to another location, same direction. But that's I know we probably shared it on the Hidden Shadows podcast, in the Hidden Shadows Paranormal pages, about something in the tunnel that we saw, captured a picture of it.
Yes. So here's kind of what happened. So when we first went, we had no equipment because this was the first time meeting Michael. Our main priority was just helping him, that first time. So we literally just had our phones. We didn't have any equipment, any digital recorders, none of that.
Yeah. We feeling around.
Yeah. They were taking us to different places, telling us about like different stories or they felt things. And this one was particularly big with their kids because they had an interaction with the actual spirit before. And so we go to this drainage tunnel. Definitely get some feelings. Had like just a like spirit box app on the phone kind of going, getting some answers here and there. But when we left, it almost felt like we started a story but didn't finish it. Definitely felt some weird things there, but we didn't go up to the tunnel at all. We stayed on the other side the first time. We stayed on the back end of the tunnel, and yeah, we just did that. Anyways, so the second time we go with a digital recorder. We go with an actual camera. We go with a body camera. We go with, the spirit box, and yeah, so we have all of that. When we first get there, everything's charged up, right? Everything. The camera's charged, full bars. Michael even witnessed it, full bars. Never had anything issues with the camera. Dash body cam had some bars to it. Wasn't fully wasn't a full bar, but it was significant. And so I had the digital recorder plugged into headphones so I could hear everything. So we go to this tunnel and, we're getting things. Isaac's pulling here and there. We're getting like intelligent answers through the spirit box. I'm hearing whispers through the digital recorder. So everything is good. We're getting ready to leave. And I tug on Isaac's shirt and I go, I think there's something in that tunnel. There's something in the tunnel. And so one of Michael's kids go, well, we go, up to the tunnel all the time. Do you want me to go up to it and take a picture? And so we were like, yeah, sure. Like, if that's what you want to do. And it was like one with the flash and one without the flash. Anyways, so she goes, crosses a little tree thing, her and her brother, and she goes up to the tunnel. And, she's taking a picture. And right before, she was calm as a cucumber, excited to just be doing this. Like, she was excited. But then all of a sudden, she got very, very, worried. Like, you can tell, her mood changed. And she's like, I don't, feel good. I'm going to go another way down instead of going on top with the tree. Because basically, you have to walk across this big, huge tree to get to the other side. And she's like, I don't feel comfortable. I'm going to go underneath. And so she comes back. And we look at the photo and we were like, holy crap, there's something in the photo. And so Michael goes, well, I saw how she came under. Let me see if I can fit under and I'll go up and take more pictures. So he goes and takes more pictures. And then he comes back. We look at the photos and bam, that same thing. And so I think Michael's wife, Michael, and his daughter start taking photos of the tunnel. And every single time they are taking photos of the tunnel, it's blurring the camera. Like, they physically cannot take any more photos. And, I think they have iPhones, I'm not sure. But, it was newer phones. So it's not
yeah,
glitching. But the thing that happened before that I accidentally forgot not to say is with the camera. Michael was manning the camera, and Michael knows cameras. He's really good with cameras. And he was panning and trying to get everything, and all of a sudden it goes shoo. And this was right before we took the first photo. It goes shoo. And he goes, holy crap, we're out of batteries. It drained it. And so we didn't have a camera. It's just ironic. And things were coming over the spirit box, like, you're not allowed to see me, things like that. So, yeah. So it prevented us from taking any further photos.
That was the interesting part by finding something there and then seeing all that. But first time, and we went to that same place twice. Both times we were there. So within the same first time, they took us to another place where supposedly a Marine drowned in this man-made little lake thing. And what's interesting about that place is something that added on to my ability and stuff like that. But I'll get to that. This little lake where kids go to hang out, swim, and stuff like that. Teenagers go hang out. Is connected to a woods. Now this is right on like the river area. So if you travel, like walk, I don't know, maybe 100 yards into the woods, boom, you're at the river cliff. But this little man-made lake thing, supposedly a Marine drowned in there. Supposedly.
Marines.
Multiple?
5.
Oh. Anyway. So I'm thinking there's something interesting about this water. So I start using my ability to reach into the water. And I find at the bottom of this, which seems a good ways down, deeper than it looks, let's say, there's a figure. And it looks like it's hunched over and it's going, no, it can't be. No. It has its head in its hands and it's just like at the bottom. And I was like, I can feel it with my right hand. So I grab it, I pull it up. And what it looks like when I have it, it looks like a shadow figure wearing a water spacesuit. Best way I describe it, right? Like a full-bodied suit all over it, like a layer of water. But the water looks like how water would look like in zero gravity, right? So you get the picture in your head. I pull it, I put it in the ring, and I know I talked about in Shadow Walker Part 6 of how I'm able to pull the elemental abilities off of entities and absorb them into my tendrils in my hands. I took the water ability from this entity and absorbed it in my tendrils and stuff like that. Now I can spin the wind and have it freeze. That's the only thing extra I can do now. Anyway. But that was interesting that I did find that there. And you're thinking to yourself, Isaac, what the hell are you talking about? Shadow Walker episodes 1 through 6 explains everything about what I can do, all that. Anyway. But while we were there at that spot, we used our phone with the Ghost Tube app. And one of the most interesting things, and this will only pertain to people who live in Onslow County, specifically Jacksonville, North Carolina. There was an ad that was placed on the billboards for like months, almost a year, I think, about a girl who was murdered. Now, she was found, all that stuff, but no clues about how she's murdered or who, any of that was figured out. So more of a cold case. But her family wouldn't let it go, and who would? And they kept asking for information on it. This girl's name was Jenna Franks. And while we were there, on base, next to these woods, in front of this pond, we hear clearly, over the Ghost Tube app, Jenna Franks. Which, that is extremely strange.
Yeah.
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 Which we're supposed to go back to that spot, and
but we haven't. Like this, like it's crazy because time on base, goes quick.
Yeah,
very quick. And they say like obviously time goes quick when you're doing something that you like doing, and obviously investigating is stuff that we like doing. So, with the time thing, but it goes really fast.
But besides that spot behind their home and that lake spot with the 2 spots we spent the most time. The other 2 locations we did on the first night we were there was what Michael called the General's Barracks, but it's actually called the H1 building, right? Mm-hmm. That's a far most interesting one. I say that because he talked about some people had reports and stuff there. I get out of the car, only me by myself, walk up to the building, reach around my right hand. I noticed something if you're looking straight at the building in front of it, it would be to your right, over in that area. And I reach around over in that area, I feel something very strong. End up pulling it, and it ended up being a demon with 2 lesser demons in its stead. So I pulled 3 without knowing what is there, all at one time. So much pain in my right arm, I couldn't grip my hand because I didn't expect to do that. Usually it's 1 at a time, but not that level of power all at once. So I was blown aback. For 1, that something that powerful would be there, and 2, it'd be in that building.
And you're going to figure, and like, I'll tell later in the episode a little bit more about the history in the H1 building, because there's a lot, like almost, I went through 3,000 stories. 3,000. I would say a good 25% are H1 buildings related. For me, I stayed in the car in that one, and the only thing that I saw was a nurse. She had like blood on her, like, you know, it was like an old timey, maybe 50s, 60s, like nurse outfit. Could have been 40s. I'm not really sure. But she had like there was an accident or something, and she had blood on her apron kind of thing. And she was walking down a hall, and she was like taking the blood off. Like, she was physically shaken by what she had encountered, and she was like, oh, like, get it off of me kind of thing. And that's the thing, is like finding any kind of records, unless it was like public news, for deaths that happen on base, because Michael did tell me like there is obviously suicides that happen that don't get reported. I mean, on the forums they talk about that, Facebook pages, they all talk about like there's deaths and even murders and stuff like that happen that don't necessarily get reported unless it's national news. And we're talking from 1941 till now. There's a lot of stuff in between there that could have happened that we don't know about.
Yeah. But that's what we encountered there. And then we got in the car and it took us to another place that we were told about by multiple Marines, and it's popped up majority on storylines, is Lyman Road.
And it's crazy because Lyman Road literally looks like Pringle Road, Patsy's Pond.
Places we've been to before. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And when we go more into the other people's stories in the later part of the episode, I don't really think we experienced anything on Lyman Road.
Couple of things.
Yeah?
There's a guard tower there.
Oh, yeah. No, this was probably the craziest experience. Like, this was the first time I think Michael and his wife had done anything paranormal investigating-wise, or like on a bigger scale.
By the way, we should say the first night we were there, they were bomb testing.
Yeah.
Or the bomb practicing or
mortar
something.
Shells or
mortar
something.
shells, yeah. So there's a lot of doom going off in the background.
Yeah, we were right.
It sounded like we were like maybe 100 yards away.
Yeah, it was pretty... It was kind of cool to see, to be honest. Well, not really cool, but you know what I'm saying. It was interesting to see, because we hear it in our house off base. Like, we hear the mortar shells and all that stuff going off. It shakes our house sometimes. Like, we hear all that because we're so close. But we were like really close. But there was apparently this tower, and that's kind of the area that they were training, where apparently a soldier jumped off the thing, right? When we were, Isaac and Michael went closer, but me and his wife stayed in the car, and I had the spirit box on and things like that. We started getting like intelligent responses that correlated with the what had happened, and I had gotten like a thing when I was in the car that like I was telling her like I don't think necessarily he like jumped off. I think he accidentally fell off the thing. And then I said it out loud. And sometimes with spirits, like they just need validation of their story, because putting in stone what happened, like putting it out there that it happened, and then, you know, if it was told that, you know, he jumped off, that almost seems like suicide, and it may have not have been suicide. And so he may have not even known what like had happened, right? And some spirits don't know, and then some psychics will come in and see what happened and are able to reiterate to the spirit what had happened. So I had said it out loud, and literally on the spirit box we got "thank you, I see archangels, goodbye."
And that's after I pulled some dark energy from it wasn't an entity itself, it was just like negative energy that was attached to the tower. So I right away I felt is I felt around the tower and I pulled what negative energy was there out of the tower, and then you got that afterwards. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, because Michael's wife was even like, oh my gosh. And so yeah, but
we went down one of the like a hunting road or like a service road that was on Lyman Road that went kind of into the woods.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't really feel anything around the area where we were, but the freaky part was that floating light in the sky
that seems to follow. Not
it was strange,
but like it's a key point, like on base, and then also in like the park, which is close to base, but not,
because it was too low for any kind of planet or star or plane. It was quiet. I thought it's like, hey, do you got drones over here? Like, there's some guy like handling drones. Like, no, the base doesn't allow it. Your own little personal drones and stuff like that, especially around where we were. Because where we were, they were doing the testing. You could literally hear like you feel the vibration in the ground from how close we were to where they were testing. So someone having a personal drone in that area would be a big no-no. So it wasn't that. So I was like, you see what I see though, right? He goes, yes. I don't know what that is. I don't know what it is either. All right. Me conspiracy, like, oh, the military spying on us. But that was the strangest thing. It was like a light that, like I said, at height wise, looked like it was a drone, like a personal drone that you would fly around. But the fact that they're not allowed in that area, it just says, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the second time we went, this is going back to the second time. So we went back to the tunnel, and then the second place that we went was this kind of like a trail, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a trail on base.
Another neighborhood that is not near where Michael lives.
Yeah, and it's just like a walking trail. So one of the things that I was consistently reading about is, and it's all over different forums and stuff like that, is, and my mother knows about this, about the area from her personal experiences, and she's come on here before and talked about it, but that, you know, there is darker practices around the area, like darker witch covens, darker like satanic rituals and stuff like that. And we've found evidence of this before. So on a couple of Facebook pages and forums and stuff like that, they were talking about, and there's like legends that there was like satanic stuff that took place on base. And obviously it's prevalent around the area. So we were talking to Michael about like past,
like, has he heard, him and his wife specifically, have they heard any kind of people on base that's known to do witchcraft or anything like that? And what neighborhoods would they be in?
Yeah, like darker stuff.
Yeah. And they told us, well, there's this neighborhood over here that has these woods behind where there's rumored there was stuff happened like that there. Mm-hmm. And that's where we went. So
we went there, and it was kind of weird because we had the digital recorder going. We didn't have any devices other than our phones at this point, just a sound recorder, digital recorder, and our phones. And so, you know, we walk, and it was weird because there was no wind whatsoever. And even when I stood still, it was like I was hearing wind in the sound recorder. So, what the freak? Why do I keep saying
it? Does record sound.
I don't know why I keep saying sound recorder. Digital recorder. And I don't know. It was weird. I was even having like Michael's daughter listen to it. And she was like, yeah, that's weird. I don't know why it's doing that. It's like, I don't know either. And then like we would stay still because I thought maybe it was me walking. But no, same thing. So we literally stop, and we're kind of like confused on where to go. And Spirit Box basically is telling us go forward. And as we're walking, Spirit Box goes off and says things like, I'm going to show you, I'm gathering energy. And meanwhile, everybody is starting to kind of like feel drained. I'm going to manifest. That was one thing that came through. You'll see me. And so we ended up, Michael got a feeling to kind of go off to the side.
Well, for you and I said.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. There's a lot of parts to this one.
Yeah. Now, we have to walk on one side and cross a bridge to get to the other side. It's a big old, like, ditch for like, I guess, draining water in the center. You could climb over this pipe, but there's a good chance we'd slip off, right? But as we were walking the trail line, there's some spots where you could walk up the hill, because if you can imagine the trails, you get the ditch to your left, you get the trail you're on, and you get like a hillside that goes up. And it goes up to a certain area. I walked up there, could feel some stuff around, didn't feel anything, but I felt like whatever I was feeling was further into the woods. So went down, then made a right. As we were walking this direction, I was telling Michael, hey, I know the Marines train you to look in the dark and stuff like that, probably better than my eyes who were ever trained to figure it out. But one thing I want you to try to look for is something on the side of this trail that looks well enough covered up if you're not looking too hard. But if you go a little further in, there'll be an opening or there'll be some place you could easily walk into. He goes, okay. And as I'm saying this to him, my spirit guides in my head tell me, hey, be sure about skinwalkers. Ask about that. So, and we've discussed many things about other legends, like the woman in white, black-eyed kids, right? But skinwalkers is something we ever talked about with Michael before. And I asked him, hey, is there any... You guys ever talk about having skinwalkers on the thing? He looks at me real fast. He goes, yeah, that's one of the things people talk about. Suppose the Marines spotted some over here. I'm like, really? He goes, yeah. So I was like, oh shit, I gotta deal with that as well. We didn't come across it.
Wait to the end of this episode. Wait.
Yeah. And we didn't come across any while we were out there. But I felt like if we were still going down that... We didn't go all the way down the path, but I feel like if we did, we might have came across something in the area. Anyway, so halfway down, making a right and going down the straightaway, which I think if you go far enough down, you're going to have to take another left, and that goes around a big, giant open area. All right, but that's besides the point. On the right-hand side, he goes, hey, check this out. And moves a branch out of the way and finds like a little, almost walked path that any tracker would easily able to see. And it leads us into this big open area. And in that open area is where we caught a lot of weird shit.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's creepy in the sense it was almost like a little bit of a like barren circle thing going on. And so I have my phone. So the one thing, they were snapping photos, but I have been kind of testing using this app called GhostTube Seer, which takes... the power of AI, essentially. Instead of creating words or bringing up words that a spirit can use, it manipulates photos. And first photo I got was this huge, like 10-foot tall shadow figure walking in like a gray... The photo was in black and white. And it was walking in like a hallway, almost. And... it looked like very, very much something that you would see on base, like alien related. I could totally see that. So I kind of just bypassed it. And we start snapping photos, and they notice that in this tree, it looks like a woman, like forming. And I go back to...
That's not what we shared on the podcast. Podcast Instagram.
Oh.
Yeah. The woman's face in the tree.
Oh, yeah. So is what we, yeah. So they keep snapping it and this woman keeps popping up. But, like, not the same, like, say it was something that was specifically, like, on the tree that we weren't able to see. It would be the same photo repeated, but it wasn't. It was different. Then I start snapping with the Seer app. And long and behold, this photo... of this creepy woman that looks identical to what was kind of showing on the tree. And, so that was being shown. They were freaking, they were freaking out because they couldn't believe that was coming through. And two, right before we got to this trail, I took a photo behind me because I felt like something was behind me. And on the ground, you can see like a ball of energy. Like it literally looks like a ball of energy. Like and that was right before everybody was feeling drained, like yawning, tired. There was also a negative effect back at the tunnel. When we were at the tunnel, that people in the group were feeling drained. It was like right after they took the photos. It was, yeah.
I just heard what you've been hearing.
Yeah.
Sounded like someone was walking the hallway.
Yeah.
Who the hell's here? Not person for people listening. Oh, check your house. No, there's no one physically here.
So, yeah, our son and anybody in the house is asleep right now. Yeah. No, we have. Well, I'll get to that because there's more. But it's something from base. I'll let you know that.
Yeah. Anywho,
yeah.
One of the cool things, because I was pulling stuff around, and there was something there. It was challenging me, but it was kind of running away and hiding, and kind of keeping on the outskirts of the area. I was able to get it, but what's strange is that when I felt the direction came from, I decided to go further. Mind you, this clearing, I was like 50 yards wide at no, less than that, maybe like 30 yards in radius wide. It wasn't big, but big enough that you notice, because everywhere around was just trees. Go a little further, I find this triangularly built, man-made deer blind. Right? It looks like it's made of logs. Like someone just stacked up logs in a triangle pattern, and there was 2 steel chairs sitting in the middle of it, both looking at each other. And that's what it looked like to me. It looked like a man-made. Well, at least Michael said, "Yeah, it's like a man-made deer blind." So you guys allowed to hunt over here? He goes, "Yeah, if you're doing it around here, right?" And I was like, "Oh, I thought they wouldn't let you guys have, at least shoot that wasn't, on, I guess trained or whatever." But I don't know. But no, yeah, there was a man-made deer blind. That was there, but that was further back from the clearing area.
It just felt very, for someone that's hunting, it seemed too close to the path that somebody could walk, because it's like a hiking trail.
Yeah,
it's on there like a hiking trail. So I just thought it was very odd that it was that close. Because you imagine like if somebody's walking just walking, and that thing wasn't too far back. No. And it was faced towards the path. That was another creepy thing.
Out of the area. But I think it was around 10:30 when we left that spot, and we're like,
what if it wasn't looking for deer? What if they were looking for shapeshifters, Wendigo, etc.? Black-eyed kids.
All right, you're going to conspiracy train. We don't know. But I feel like we went farther down the path. We kind of went running into something. But no, we called it a night from that point on. Made our way back, and we plan to go again here soon.
Yeah.
To investigate, because there's still a lot of places, including the barracks that we always get told about.
But the barracks, that's probably the most haunted. I would peg that the most haunted.
Now we can't go in.
Yeah.
But I can stand outside of.
Yeah. Possibly.
Yeah.
We don't know for sure.
So.
But yeah. So we're going to start getting into the history.
Yeah. No, but I guess one thing, this is before we get to the history part, I want to make a question that I thought to myself. How is a military base that fucking haunted with all this weird, strange shit? And that's just what we experience. There's, like you said, there's over a butt ton of stories of people talking about this and that, including black-eyed kids. But I didn't even think that would happen here.
Which...
Not to us, but I would like to run across them, see if I can take them. But no, black-eyed kids, other weird legends, lady in white, supposedly a skinwalker. I ran into demons.
Wendigo.
Yeah, a laundry list of shit on base, a military base where people don't distinctly die on purpose. Like you don't go try to kill people there. Accidental death, suicides, yeah, it happens. And then, but I was thinking and this is what you talked about in the beginning of the episode. Try to figure out the histories of this location. What happened there that would cause it to be haunted at that level? Mm-hmm. And we found some shit.
Some crazy shit.
Yeah.
So, like I said, the history is kind of like tucked away. It is extremely hard. I think we've even had some people in the paranormal community try and help us, like on their end, trying to search up some things, and it's extremely hard. Like even with the park, we've tried to look up things with the park because it was a park from the 1970s on, but what was it before? And the same thing with the base. Like the base was only a base in 1943. So what the heck went on? 41, yeah. Well, 43 they started really putting people there, but 1941 is when they kind of like started. And so I asked the city. They kind of didn't have an answer for me. So we went to because I had seen, because obviously people talk about it on forums, what they assume, like with the park, they assumed that there was a native tribe there that settled along the like swamp and the river and stuff like that. They got massacred by the settlers. The settlers had a thing. The natives cursed the land, and something happened, and all the settlers died that were on that area. And granted, paranormal wise, we've gotten evidence that could definitely have supported that, but finding that actual evidence, I have not been able to.
Well, you had me have a conversation with the curator at the Onslow County Museum.
Yeah, we have an Onslow County Museum.
Yes.
If anybody is listening from here that wants to know more about the history.
But something I didn't know is that the colonial people, settled in 1752. No, in 1752, the colonial settlement that was in the area of where Camp Lejeune base is now were settled there. And in 1752, there was a hurricane that wiped them all out. The entire colony was gone. Gone, right? Yeah. So that's a lot of deaths, and there's no way in colonial times to be able to survive a hurricane. Hell, we can barely do it now. So you can imagine one back then at a Cat 3 or 4, blowing down houses, flooding and all that stuff. So.
And they were right on the water. That was another thing, is right there.
Yeah.
And
so there's good tragedy and death that would cause some spirits to be there, but there had to be more. So I asked, what was it used for? She said around the 1800s, it was farmland, right? And I asked plantations. She goes, not necessarily plantations, but there were plantations there and farmland like that. Look, but 1800s and stuff like that, there's no way.
But that's the thing. That's the thing. Number one, when I looked at forums and stuff like that, there was actual like historian on the forums and things like that, that people were talking about there being plantations, not just on base, but all around. And
she tried her hardest not to say plantation.
Yeah. Like 45 minutes away, you have one of the largest Foscue plantation, one of the largest, one of the most brutal plantations in the South.
Yeah.
So you can't tell me that there wasn't. No, not. I mean, I'm not saying all of the stuff, right? Like all of the people that had farms and stuff were. But, I mean...
The 1800s, the South, right? There's a good chance there were slaves there. Yeah. Plain and simple. So you had those deaths there as well, in that area. But I was thinking there had to be more of a magnitude or some kind of a magnet of negative energy, or at least energy itself attached to that place. Had to be. So I asked about Native American histories and stuff like this. And this is where a lot of things get interesting. Because I was asked, my assumption was that the Croatoan were around here since we have the Croatoan National Forest, less than 20 minutes away. She goes, no, the government named it the Croatoan National Forest because you got Croatoan and Roanoke Island and stuff like that, so that's what kind of got its name. Like, oh, okay, then what tribes were there in this area? And she kept saying that there was no settled tribes at the time that colonials came. Which didn't make any sense to me. Like I said, all they had was artifacts, and it's supposedly 500 years prior to the colonists coming here, there was no one here. And they left before then. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. It had to be people here. You got the natural water sources, you got the river. These are perfect places to grow and have food, so it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
But the Iroquois and the Algonquins were the tribes supposedly that were here.
And it doesn't make any sense because, from our paranormal stuff, which
our investigations,
historical societies and people like that, owners of like museums and stuff like that, not owners, but main people at museums, they don't like anything. Because you even said when you talked to her, she got a little bit with the paranormal.
Yeah.
And I know that, because to even get a conversation with her, I didn't even mention we were paranormal.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is, I mean, I get it, whatever, if that's what they believe. But I've had really bad occurrences with trying to get history information from people that are history. I think it was Winston-Salem that I tried getting information from. And the guy basically said, take your little research project somewhere else. So, yeah. So if you're out there and you're paranormal investigating, you're trying to get information and they bite your head off, just know what happens to everybody. Yeah. So,
and I'm speaking as with assumptions of there had to be native tribes here before colonials even came, but I haven't had a chance to speak with anybody that's even in tribal information. No native people that have that kind of information. No head of what do you call it? Tribal councils, or even the what's the word I'm looking for? Space area where reservation. The reservation that's here in North Carolina and stuff like that. I tried emailing, tried to get information, no responses back.
Yeah.
So I'm using the best information I have to say most likely there wasn't. But we have come across native spirits here.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is like, even because I grew up in North Carolina. So in 8th grade, we learned North Carolina history. There was a lot of native settlements throughout the state. I mean, western part of North Carolina has one of the, I don't know if I'm saying this correctly, but a huge Cherokee reservation. I think it's the biggest on the East Coast or something like that. But yeah, they have a big, and that's important because some of the history I'm going to tell you with the Iroquois and the Algonquins correlate to some of the things that people have said. Mm-hmm. So, and there's like, not legends, but kind of like some people say that they believe that on base there was important sites or mounds and stuff, burial mounds and stuff like that on base. And because of like when they built, went building and stuff like that, that it was disturbed. And we've even gotten information about that from the park area. When we go to the park and we ask specific questions, we've even been told that there was stuff at the park in the center field. So that's interesting. But one of the things that I didn't really know was a thing, but that validates Isaac's experience with the gnome.
Yes.
Because when I heard the story, read the story, I was laughing because, I always joke around with Isaac's gnome story, but there's legends in the Iroquois tribe, which I'm going to tell you in a second, and then there's also people's stories. And this goes all the way back to the 70s. People in the mid 70s, specifically in the housing area near the water tower, said that they saw like the typical cartoony gnome that you would see, but the eyes were almost like shaped like he had sunglasses on, almost like alien like, but not really. But the Iroquois have a specific legend called the Joga. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it translates to drum dancers. And they believed that these mythical little people, usually invisible, but there are ways of telling if they're around. For example, if you hear drumming with no visible drummers around, that's a thing. People have heard that on base. They also leave rings of bare earths and bowls in stone and mud. We have seen who knows if that's actually what it is, but we have seen rings in the wooded areas, in multiple different spots. Offerings like tobacco and fingernails can be offered for them.
Fingernails?
Yeah, I guess you clip. I don't know what they do with that.
It's weird.
But here's the thing that is weird about it. So if you've listened to that October update episode that we did back in October, when we talked mainly about the park, when we were part of Shadow Walker Paranormal and went as a team to the park, we were on a trail, and that was when we brought Mike with us. And we had seen this light dancing on the water. And apparently, people have even described it kind of as if, like with the Puckwudgies, how in the Bridgewater Triangle, how they would see the light. And it's supposedly the same kind of thing. And that blew my mind because what the heck, that's connections on all fronts in a sense. You know, there's that legend plus what other people are seeing. And it was kind of like, I don't know if it was like that for you, but people described it as like, oh shit, what did I see? And then kind of like back up like, oh, I did not see anything.
Well, that was not, I mean, I wouldn't say the lights were because we always see orbs and stuff in there, but on the water, it made it Pacific. What was strange is when we made our way back across the wooden bridge, is when we found that board with the nails up lying in the middle of the path, as if someone put it there deliberately. And we look back at our footage, that wasn't there at the time we walked forward, but it was there when we walked back, as if someone put it there on purpose. We're alone in this park at night, because it's late. Ain't no one there. So that's where people say there's probably a cryptid. So the people in the chat, because we were doing a live investigation, was saying, oh, it's kind of like how Bigfoot does. He leaves traps for people to get injured and stuff like that. I asked if there's any cryptids in the area. And we know, but then the idea of the swamp, we connected with the puck wedgie, but now because of the orb thing, some stronger evidence. But the fact that you were telling me that some of these native legends have gnomes in them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a ton of different, like the Cherokee even has, because the Cherokee was in North Carolina. I don't know if they were this far east. I don't think so, but they even have it. So, okay, so they describe in the Joga, which is the drum dancers, but the Iroquois said, they claim that the gnomes are knee high, about 4 feet, but
4 feet? They ain't knee high.
Isn't it?
No, that's like maybe 18 inches.
Oh.
Depending on the height of this person.
Then this Wikipedia article is not
good.
You're
judging height, actual information from Wikipedia?
Yeah. No, but, so the people that have experienced this have actually said that they've given like 3 feet. Does that seem plausible?
No, this guy, the one I saw. By the way, if you've got a gnome story, we did it on talking about the Fae, right? I talked about the gnomes, and I told my story that I saw a gnome here in the house we live in here now. And my first assumption was that your grandma got some kind of gnome figure that was like she put next to the bush and it was standing there, and that's what I thought. But the fact that it kind of leaned out and then moved like it was hiding back behind the bush was like, oh shit, that thing is moving. That's something. And that's why I ran to look at it, but I couldn't find anything. It disappeared. But yeah, same height. Maybe, I don't know. I'm looking at my water bottle. Maybe a foot tall.
Yeah.
Same pointy hat, little sweater. Granted, it was all in shadow, but it had the shape like that. That's what made me think, it's a damn gnome? And like I said, we've experienced a lot of things, but I never thought I'd see a gnome before. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, too, is it's not only gnomes that people are seeing. Like we had said earlier, it's Wendigo people think they are seeing, and shapeshifters and things like that, and skinwalkers and things like that.
Well, the fact that we well, granted they were dead, so the spirits of them, but we dealt with skinwalkers here in Patsy's Pond. That's, of course, a little further up the coast. But we dealt with them in the woods. So we dealt with dead ones, the spirits of ones that were haunting that area. So yeah, to put it far-fetched that there wasn't any on Camp Lejeune, it's a dumb statement to make.
Yeah. And so for anybody that is curious as to what the difference is between a skinwalker and Wendigos.
Did we talk about this?
Yes, but I'm going to give it just in case somebody is listening that's new. Skinwalkers are malevolent, essentially medicine man, which is with the power to transform into animals. And then Wendigos are cannibalistic spirits.
Yeah.
So, and there was one story that I read, oh my God, so many years ago. And I think I told it on the first Camp Lejeune episode. But the Wendigo is the whistles, or is that the Skinwalker?
Skinwalkers hear whistles.
Okay, I thought Wendigos did too.
Now, Wendigos will mimic your voice.
Okay. Yeah, that's what it is, because that makes sense with the story. So there was 3 Marines. They were out hunting, and they were in a specific wooded area. I don't know if it was on base or in town in, like, Jacksonville, but they were on base, and they had kind of separated, and basically one guy was hearing his name called. So the one guy went running. The other guy was hearing the other guy, and they ended up getting stuck in a part of the forest, and they couldn't get out. Now that's creepy, because there was a Marine read it. He goes by OK Paramedic 4976, and he talked about on Verona Loop, there's a field. There's an area, sorry, not a field. He was pretty much every field operation he's ever dealt with has been over there. And he says that he knows what coyotes and wildlife sound like. But he said at this specific spot, he believes that there is Wendigos. And he believes it's an old native burial ground that is still pretty active. He says that there is a spot there that looks like a huge cross in the ground. And him and his buddy went there, and their compasses went haywire and took them probably a good 2 hours to get out of the area. They would go straight, and then they would end up right back where they started. He said that they literally said, "Stop this shit out loud, leave us alone." They tried again, and that's when they finally made it to the road. But he said, like, there's some weird stuff that he's heard there, and it doesn't feel right, and stuff like that. Yeah. So we haven't even begun to tap into that stuff. So we kind of covered Wendigo. We kind of covered the gnomes. Those are 2 main, like, I guess, creatures, cryptids, kind of thing that people see, feel, and stuff like that. But the main thing that a lot of people say they see is shadow figures and apparitions. So going through those 3,000 stories that I've read through, there was a specific one that I read. It was on a forum page where you can share like local stories and photos and stuff like that. This happened in 1995. This person said that they took a late night walk at Courthouse Bay. They walked out onto the dock at the New River and saw a man fishing. He was wearing a ball cap and a light jacket. It was clear moonlit night, and I wanted to ask the guy if he caught anything, but he seemed like he didn't want to be bothered. I sat down on the dock and lit a cigarette, looked up, and the man was gone. He found out a while later that a Marine drowned while fishing drunk in the 1970s, and people have been seeing him ever since. Now, here's the thing. Obviously they said there's, like, it was just farmland and there was no plantations and stuff like that. Well, people have actually seen apparitions of slaves, what would appear to be slaves, like the typical, I guess, what someone would look like in that time period, walking on the side of the road. There was also, I don't know if this is actually confirmed, but some history that I found from other people talking and, word of mouth is that Camp Lejeune actually had a path that people would take when they would go out west. And so a lot of like settlers and people like during the pioneer days would take this route. And unfortunately, a lot of people died. So there's that. They've seen shadow figures. They've seen a lot of the homes have activity. That was another thing that consistently kids would have nightmares. They would see shadow figures. One specific place that gets talked about a lot is Midway Park. And we haven't even gone that way. But you pass Midway Park and there's always such a, like, I don't know if you get it, but like I know with me it's like a somber, weird feeling. Anyone that lives on Midway Park that's listening, there's a specific area that I always get like a funk vibe from. I think it's a gas station. It's a white building right before you get to the bridge that goes over the New River. You pass it when you're like in Jacksonville, not on base, but in Jacksonville, you pass it. You have Woodson Pond, and it's right before you get to like Lejeune. Well, it's on Lejeune, but yeah. So that specific spot is always weird for me, but yeah. So apparitions is one thing. A lot of weird activity in people's homes, like they'll have shadow figures. They'll see shadow figures. Kids get bothered by stuff where they can't sleep. They have nightmares. Now, here's the thing is, I don't know how true this is. This is kind of a legend, but apparently there was a room, I think it's 101 in one of the buildings, that apparently possessed girl was in there.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, again, like when you're on base, you have so much stuff. I mean, in the barracks alone, that's where the black-eyed kids encounter happened. And the thing is, like...
You talked about in the Camp Lejeune Part 1.
Yeah, and in the black-eyed kids one. So, if you want to go through the whole thing, make sure to check out the black-eyed kids episode. But, yeah, the H1 building, that's another one that, obviously, we talked about at the beginning, that people that have any kind of like, because that used to be the old naval hospital, which now makes total freaking sense why I saw the nurse.
Doesn't explain why I pulled a powerful demon from that location. Yeah,
exactly. So of what happened there, who knows? So there was this one guy that on that same forum said that this was by a guy named Sean. He was, this is what he said. He says, here's an additional story now that I'm out. At night, at the very top of the H1 building at Hospital Point is the CDO, the Chief Duty Officer Night Post. This post is to answer any important calls from overseas, such as Red Cross messages and any information regarding Marines. Well, while I was doing this post, I was sitting at a desk early in the duty, around 2200 to 2300. I watched a little child look into the assistant's room at me and continue walking to the left, past the CDO's office. I immediately got up from the desk and went to the doorway. I looked to the left down the hall. There was no one there. I then went into the CDO's office and asked the CDO on duty if he had a child that was at his desk. He replied no, that we were the only ones there. I conferred with him that I had just seen the child, and he spoke with me of the history of the H1 building, of how it used to be a hospital, and how when he was a kid he would come to the Hospital Point for treatment. Since then, I had spoken with the evening duties of the quarter deck, the main entrance, and I've been told that there were a number of disturbances during the night at this building at night. This information is never recorded in any duty rosters, as any inquiry would have led to negative attention to oneself. So, and that's the thing that's kind of sucks is like, I feel like a lot of the Marines can't, when they experience a lot of the stuff, can't talk about it. And it's when you experience something like that, especially if you're a skeptic, you know, it's rough. There's another guy that his name was Keith that also posted on this forum that says, I work at H1. I was in the head going pee when I heard a bang and the trash can move. So I looked at it while I was peeing, and the can looked as if it was being pushed out of the wall and fell on the ground beside me. That made no sense to me. This is the G2 wing on the first floor. I flushed the toilet and was out. Yeah. So there's a lot of just on the H1. Like that was
Wish
one.
Wish we could go inside.
So this guy, his name is Keith. No, it's not Keith. It's Irene. I'm sorry. Keith is like, I don't know why I keep seeing Keith everywhere. She says, I lived on Midway Park across from the firehouse, and my house was haunted. The cabinets would slam every night. We would feel cold breezes that would make the hairs on your neck stand up. I've seen pictures of strange people in my mirror. The door of my son's room creaked open in the early morning. We closed it, laid back down, and heard the doorknob turn 3 or 4 times. I was recently looking at some pictures, and in the window there is an outline of a firefighter. So here's the thing is like, okay, how many houses do you have on base? I think there's like 100,000 Marines there, probably.
don't say that many, but
I think so. I think that. Anyways, so obviously, some majority of them, a chunk of them, probably live on in the barracks, but there's a lot of families on base.
Yeah,
and majority of people say that they had something in their house at some point living on base.
that's why it says something with the land more than anything.
Yeah. Another person said that, again, going back to the H1 building at the hospital point, definitely haunted. They've heard people walking down the hall at night while on duty being the only person in the area of that building. While on duty, me and a few of my coworkers were working late night after a late night, heard the outside door open and slam shut. So again, and two, like, you think about it, there's got to be some source. So
methinks portal.
There has to be multiple. There has to be a huge one. There has to be, because this is the thing is, after we came back, I channeled 3 people from the tunnel. It was a woman. Her name was Doreen, who came through the spirit box when we were there. She was explaining that she had died in a car accident going to her mother's house after hearing something about her husband. And her husband was in, I don't know what war, some war, and he never came home. And she went to her mom's house because she was having anxiety. It was raining, and she got in a car accident and died. No way for me to verify that, so yeah. I don't know. But then, obviously, another little boy came through, a Marine. Now, the Marine that I saw was, I'd kind of seen him when I was there, but, like, he really came through when I was home, kind of, like, channeling the area and things like that. I was looking back at the photos and remote viewing and stuff like that, and he had blonde hair. I actually did an AI photo of him, so I'll post that on Instagram. But he specifically showed me on his canteen that he was part of, like, I don't know if it was a unit or what, but it was US 167. And he had blonde hair and full gear, and he was even asking, like, is there a way you could transfer spirits to your house? And I was like, there, what? Like,
can I have a shelter for spirits here?
Yeah, not doing that. I said, no, you're just gonna have to wait till, like, we go back and I can figure something out. What was creepy was they all 3 kept talking about this woman, this woman that's disguised, that she's evil, she's not nice, and that basically there was a portal. They were told that they had to stay in the drainage pipe, right? That it was not safe to get out of the drainage pipe. And this woman, like, she oversees them, basically. And she's one of the dark things keeping them there. And so I ended up going to AI and drawing what they showed me. And it, I don't know, it's creepy as hell. Like, this woman has, like, elongated face. If you were to remote view and look at her, she looks normal, but she's definitely off. She's not necessarily, like, a demonic being or anything like that, but she is just, like, an evil freaking soul. And so I don't know, but one of the things they specifically said was that the tunnel was a portal. There was a portal inside of the tunnel. So I don't know. And then obviously there's water right by it, so that could also fuel stuff. But yeah, so there has to be something huge that we haven't encountered. And that's the thing too, is like, so randomly we'll have things that will come, back to the house and stuff like that, and I don't mind dealing with that, but we had one thing that was coming to the house, and I did the Seer app. For some reason, that's where I went. I put the Seer app on my phone, let it kind of go, and I asked, like, okay, you need to show me where you're from, right? And it showed me this wooded area with a cross in the ground, which is like what that guy was talking about. Yeah. Then I said, well, okay, show me something that will make me 100% know where you're at. And it literally showed me, I had taken a photo of that pond that we had gone to, and it literally showed me like an overview of the pond, and inside the pond water was what you would imagine a portal. It was a swirling thing.
So yeah, we need to go back there because I mean, I intentionally originally grabbed into looking for something, but I came across the entity. If I want to go further, could I have found the portal? But we're yet to find out.
Yeah. So I'm going to share one more story, I think, before we kind of cut this off. We're going to have a bonus episode that strictly is talking about encounters at Camp Lejeune, other people's encounters. That's going to be kind of like a bonusing. But yeah. So is there anything else you want to add before I conclude this story?
No, you tell a story and I get my theory at the end.
Okay, so here is something that kind of, I don't know, plays into the light thing too. This guy wrote, I was at work one day just standing next to my hazmat locker, staring out the door of the tool room, when all of a sudden this ball of light shot past the top part of the door. It wasn't a reflection of any light from outside. There was nothing around to cause the reflection. I could see all sides of it, including the dip and its trajectory. Which is creepy because, again, that photo that I took has this little, like, swirly light that doesn't make any sense. There was nothing on the ground reflecting. There was nothing. And it was just sitting there on the ground. I don't know if it was the spirit getting ready to manifest, because we've seen in multiple photos before where, like, the thing will start to manifest and you'll see some energy kind of orby looking, but
we still have a lot of investigating to do on base, especially if we get a chance to go to Midway Park. We'll go there as well. And anywhere else Michael has access to. But until I get proven otherwise by our investigations, my best assumption why Camp Lejeune is haunted, besides the amount of tragedy that's happened there, all that energy just stuck there. Entire town being wiped out, Native Americans probably being pushed out, and then slaves probably dying on the property as well, or the land had. And that talks about Camp Lejeune. When I talk about Midway Park, that's on the other side of the road. Who knows what happened there as well? That caused that area to be haunted. I think both areas, Midway Park, Camp Lejeune, and probably anywhere else, military-wise, this is entire East Coast area of Jacksonville. It seems to be a native spiritual area. In an essence of, like, a lot of connections, portals to the other side are here. And we found that out with Patsy's Pond. I'm thinking there has to be some strong open portal in Camp Lejeune that's somewhere that you wouldn't think it to be, but it's there. And no one had really much access to it because it's somewhere on base that no one really has a lot of access to. Like some high security building, somewhere where, like, only certain levels of high security military are allowed to go, but they never really thought of it anything other than, oh, it's just a weird place, you get a weird feeling there. And it's nowhere that normal people can go to begin with. Or it's somewhere like in the woods, right? The woods that we were traveling to, we might be able to find it in there, right? Like a needle in a haystack almost. But until we get shown otherwise, that's my best theory of why this city, because it's about the size of a city, is so haunted specifically. And then the other area in Midway Park, but also there's a neighborhood that's on the other side of Midway Park that everyone has access to. Hunter's Creek, Hunter's Trail.
Hunter's Creek, yeah.
Yeah. It's in the same area. It's right on the other side. No more than 50 yards away from the housing from Midway Park. So whatever happens to them on Midway Park happens to them as well.
And that's the thing is, like,
everyone who doesn't live in Jacksonville, like, whoa, I know. Everyone else is like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. And that's the thing is, like, I think the closest to getting some of the things off base was Northeast Creek Park. Because it borders. The other side that you're looking at, isn't that base?
It goes to base.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
That's connected. So.
Yeah.
But yes, we will definitely have more, most likely be a Haunted Camp Lejeune Part 3 in the future.
Yeah. And I think, too, a lot of, this is kind of the direction that our podcast might be going, is going to places and telling our stories that we encountered. Because Camp Lejeune, man.
Yeah. We're going back soon, so you might have some more stories. Before announcement, if you're in the Jacksonville area and actually want to meet us in person and hear some other stories and places we investigated around Onslow County in this entire area, we are having a live podcast event at Pizza Bones in Jacksonville, North Carolina, on Wednesday, February 14th. Valentine's Day, it works. It's good. It's Single Awareness Day for some people, Valentine's Day for others.
Yeah.
But the event starts at 5 p.m., and we were told about 5 hours, so around 10 o'clock it ends. So if you feel you can't make it that early, don't worry about it. We have other things going on. We're breaking it apart in segments. We're not trying to keep it under an hour each, but first segment we know is going to be about an hour. It's a live podcast. We're going to do episode talking about haunted restaurants, amusement parks, not amusement parks per se, but like arcades and stuff like that, kind of like a Chuck E. Cheese's and stuff like that. Yeah. Second segment is going to be all us talking about haunted locations we've investigated right here and our experiences with them. Third segment is going to be a Q&A. You have any questions for us directly that you want to ask us about our abilities, our investigations we've done, or anything the paranormal you may want our opinion on, or maybe you want to learn something that you think we would know. Go ahead and ask us. And then the last segment is going to be a meet and greet for us to sell some merch, or maybe you want to ask us a question personally that you didn't want everyone to hear, and you want to ask us directly and stuff like that. That's that kind of time for that as well. But yeah, live events going on at Pizza Bones, February 14th at 5 p.m. So if you're in the Onslow County area or Northeast North Carolina area and you want to head to Jacksonville, head to Pizza Bones. They got a good menu, good food there, stuff like that. I know we had the burger there. I like it a lot. Yeah. But yeah, we got that going on. No other announcements? No?
Nope, I think that's it.
Alrighty. But I hope you guys enjoy this one because we've been keeping this in the chamber for a while. But if you want to catch our socials, it's Hidden in the Shadows Podcast on Instagram, Hidden in the Shaw 6 on X, Hidden in the Shadows Podcast 2 on TikTok. Our links to all our social media, all ways you can listen to us at hiddenshadowspodcast.com. Also, we also have a paranormal team, Hidden Shadows Paranormal, on Instagram as well. If you're dealing with anything in the paranormal and you need our help or advice with, either message us through the podcast Instagram or the paranormal Instagram.
And if you're on base and you need some help,
you know who to contact.
Yeah, we can help you. I know there's a lot of people in the forums and stuff like that say that, boy, we'd love to help and all that stuff, but we'd love to help. So, and
as always, our services, always will be and always has been, our services are free. Yes. But with that said, we'll catch your widows in the next one.
Yes.